Hi everyone. Season in review finally. We just finished up China yesterday, and I have our three finalists with us. First up, we have our winner, the lovely Luna. Luna, would you say hi?
Hello.
We got a runner-up, Jason. Jason, give a little hello.
Hello.
An absolutely iconic finalist, we have Ev.
Hello.
For those of you that haven't listened before, we're just going to run through the season round by round and get their takes on everything that happened so they can give you a deeper understanding for what happened in the game and all of that. So, starts off super simple. We start off by splitting them into two tribes right down the middle. One of our smaller seasons with only 16 players. Uh, how did the game start for you guys? What were you feeling? Yeah, you guys are good to go.
All right, who wants to go first?
I guess do you want to go first, Jason?
Yeah, sure. I'll talk about Fei Long. Um, but yeah, so the game started, and for me, I know now that I got like a pretty like good start socially with everything, and Fei Long was like a good tribe. It was pretty stacked. Almost everyone was active. Uh, Almost everyone was giving everyone was like giving good confessionals I saw after the season. Um, there wasn't like too much to talk about because at least like when the game first started, like tribe like dynamics hadn't really sprung up yet. I think the main thing was like the trio of me, Poe, and Goose starting, but that was pretty much it for the very beginning at least.
Okay.
Because the idol didn't come into play for a while, but yeah, not too much to talk about at the start, but it was a good tribe. I liked it. One of my favorites.
Okay. Evan, Luna, what was your tribe like?
You want to go, Luna?
Okay, sure. Jean Hu was kind of the same. Like most of us were active. I mean, everybody was active, but some people were less active than others. Um, there was a little bit of talk right at the beginning when some people saw Raver take the claim the idol in the camp chat, like right
So
when we
wait,
got into the chat.
what do you mean claim the idol? What did Rapper do?
Like he sent the picture of the camp banner, and like I didn't see it myself, so this is what I heard.
I saw
Um
it and I told it to Luna.
Yeah, that he sent the picture with the idol circled and was like, "Hey, what's this?" And then it was deleted and the little symbol on the camp banner was gone. So there was a little bit of talk around that, but nobody really no one came to the conclusion specifically that hey, Raver has the idol. Um, Ev, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was one of the few who saw it, and I told Luna about it right away because we got that day one early connection going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I didn't really think that would be all there was to it. I thought maybe he'd like gone the first step or a clue to it by doing that. And like he'd be the only one to get the clue because then the thing was like off the original post. But that was definitely like the excitement of day one on John Who. And then
Mm-hmm.
just getting to meet the tribe and seeing who is active.
Yeah, we
Who
also
was active? Were there
formed.
people that were more active than others?
Yeah, we actually got the Mataluvia, the 5-person alliance formed on the I think it was not the first day, but the first episode during the tribal. That
Yeah,
was
I think it was right after we lost the challenge.
yeah, it was me and Ev and Dane, Matt and Viz. So we were the ones who were the most active and clicked together right off the bat versus Ollie,
That,
Zach, and Robert being the less active.
that's actually a perfect transition into the first challenge, where half the tribe would be doing a maze and the other tribe would be doing something that has to do with counting. In a somewhat close challenge, Fei Long ends up winning and Zanhu loses, which means at the first tribal council, we have Ed, Matthew, Robert, Zach, Dane, Luna, Ollie, and Vish in attendance. Can you guys lead me through what's happening here?
Uh, I just want to say how it's kind of ironic to me, based on how the season ended, that I was absolutely the reason my tribe lost. that
choice
first.
for the first vote.
Pretty easy for you too, Ev?
Yep. From my perspective, it just seemed like everyone wanted an easy vote there, and Robert made himself one very quickly.
He did. He also had the idol, and he also self-voted because he thought tribal was later. From a production standpoint, we do not know who he would have idled out or even if he would have chosen to use it because the night before he said, I'll wake up in the morning and tell you who I'm voting. So we didn't even know what his plans were. So that could have changed the season dramatically. But first tribal, nice unanimous vote, moves us on to episode 2. In episode 2, we had the lovely May challenge where you were given a prompt and you had 5 minutes to draw it. And then at the end, everyone would vote for it. You had a little painting. I think it was something to do with like cats on cakes,
Yes.
with each level being something different.
Mhm.
The winning tribe, and it wasn't even close, was Zanhu in a score of 58-26. Almost everybody on your tribe scored points, which was pretty incredible compared to Fei Long, where Jason scored most of the tribe's points. Jason,
Yes,
you
sir.
guys were heading to tribal. What's happening here?
Well, I wasn't too worried at all because I feel like off the bat immediately, like there was like talk that you had basically they were the 5 most active people were me, Ho, Goose, um, Andy, and Will. At least from my perspective, and I think Poe shared that sentiment, and then Goose a bit. But basically, like Cess and CK were like the 2 that were pretty like not there at all, really, especially CK.
Okay.
So I wasn't worried at all because it was a super like easy tribal, like nothing. It was very uneventful because just CK's name spread pretty quick. There wasn't really any pushback, because just the social stuff like wasn't there with CK. Um,
So he was an easier vote because there was a more active majority forming and he wasn't a part of that?
yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and
Okay.
I personally never, I didn't really talk to anyone about it, but I personally never really spoke game with him at all. So like for me, it was kind of just
CK also did not submit a painting.
yeah. That's right. That's right. I do
So
remember that.
that doesn't seem to help in a challenge where you need to submit paintings. Something I
Nah.
forgot to mention, kidnapping started this round. And each round, the winning tribe would select somebody from the losing tribe to kidnap. Zanhu, how did that affect your decision? What made you choose Goose? What did you learn about kidnapping? What did you learn about Fei Long? Any of that?
We randomized for ours. I think we just
Yeah.
Was
we
it
just
truly
agreed to
random
do
or
the
was it
fairs.
a haha, I want this person, let's make it look random?
I mean, I think we used Pancake Bot, and then there was kind of
Oh,
like
so it
a
was pretty
bunch
random.
of a mess with Pancake. I think we said we didn't want CK, right, Luna? Like we explicitly
Yeah.
said we're gonna randomize but not include CK because he hadn't submitted.
I think the first time we randomized, it happened to pick CK, and then we were like, wait,
Yeah.
no.
But other than that, it was I think just purely random,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Did it affect,
and it was Goose.
you guys learn anything about Fei Long through the kidnapping of Goose?
I personally did not. We
Me
mostly
neither.
just kind of talked casually.
I was busy the night he got here, so I didn't get to talk to him much.
Very fair.
Also, I
That
have a
means,
question
yeah.
for you, Leafy.
Oh,
The
okay. What's up?
idol, when you re-hit it, was it like re-hitting right at the start of the episode? And like, how did that happen?
Great question. This is actually something where so we try to follow the show to a T, but there's no precedence because James had both idols and he was voted out in the merge. And it's unclear whether or not they hid one at merge or just it was too late in the game so they didn't rehide. So we took the liberty of rehiding Robert's idol immediately where he found it, and we put it right back, right back in the tribe image. We had 2 links, and we edited the links with the picture. And a few of you noticed that the link was different. You didn't know what was different. A few of you noticed that it was different. And then somebody even noticed when we put it back. They said, wait, it's back to normal now. But nobody quite knew what to do with it yet.
It would have been so funny if Raver had just taken the idol out of the game forever like that.
We did
That
think
would
it'd be
have
pretty funny
caused
if
so
that's what
much
would have happened.
paranoia.
We had a very long conversation about that. Like, that'd be pretty iconic.
What
And
about
Robert
we'd all
just
be
says back
freaking
to
out like,
basics.
yeah, we'd all be like, who has the idol? Who?
There would have
Someone
been
must have the
so
idol.
much
And then it's like, well,
paranoia.
Robert
Would
had
have
it.
been funny.
I would have gone
Uh,
insane, actually.
that's why I was an advocate for don't rehide it. I thought it'd be funny, but it makes more sense to rehide it, especially because he didn't even really like use it. Nobody really knew he had it besides if you saw him post in tribe chat.
Hmm.
So it was almost like it never happened that he found it. So we're just like, okay, we'll put it back. We'll rehide it.
Let's
It's
all
early
agree.
in the game. Yeah, it wasn't that big of a deal.
Mhm.
But that brings us to episode 3, where again May has a challenge. It was a scavenger hunt, and this was actually we've done it differently this year. We did it where it was a command. You'd pull up a list of 30 items you have to find, and you stop your stopwatch when you found as many as possible. So you're trying to find as many as possible. The tiebreaker being time. Zahn, who wins immunity again, finding all 30. Fei Long was not able to find 2 of the items. I'm pretty sure a cake was one of them. And Cest was kidnapped this round. Jason, you're back at Tribal for the second time in a row. What's happening here?
Yeah, so I was pretty annoyed at this point going 2 in a row because that's not fun for anyone, especially when there's only 4 tribals before the swap. So I was like, well shit. I'm allowed to curse, right?
Yeah,
Okay, I was making sure. So I was like, well shit. Like, there's no way that we can have um like no. I think it was I don't know. So like about the swap, it would have just been like not good at all. If we lost like 3 in a row, because then um that's just like there would have been like stuff for like I feel like it would have been more tense for like are we gonna like throw this challenge because there's only 5 of us left now and we have to stay strong for the merge. So I just want to go to as least many pre-swap tribals as possible. So it wasn't fun losing a second one in a row.
doesn't
But
sound like your plan was working.
no, no. But yeah, for the tribal itself though, I wasn't really worried about Cess being kidnapped because I knew that he couldn't actually like get the clue himself or whatever. And really, it would just be like it wouldn't really been a problem. But I immediately kind of I wanted him out specifically just because another thing like same to as the CK vote, just like who's social and who's not. And it was pretty clear cut. I think the only little drama that happened at the end was that um, Goose had thought the vote was on Scythe for a while. I think it was Scythe. But then we told him like only like half an hour before tribal that it was actually on Cest, and then Cest actually got tipped off that he was getting voted out, and then he made an alliance with a bunch of people, including I think it was me and Andy. I don't remember who the last one was, but it was one other
I do
person.
remember quite the scramble last minute when he found out it was him.
Yeah, yeah. He went and told. Went to the chat and he was like, "Okay, if you guys keep me in, like I have information. I know who may have the idol. And I think there's someone that I think he was referencing Ollie when he was saying like, there's someone that wants to help us like get the idol and stuff. And at that point, because it was so late before the vote, like it was like a matter of minutes before the tribal happened. There's just no way I really wanted to flip. And I figured if there's still going to be kidnappings anyway, we're probably going to get that information eventually. So it wasn't really like a big deal. But yeah,
That's
he
fair.
nanned out. So
Okay. Before we move on to the next round, Ev, Luna, why'd you guys kidnap Cess? Was that random again? Did you have an inclination this time?
I think it was random again.
It was random again. Also, this was the
Do you
round I
remember
got the
who got the
idol.
clue? Yep, this is what I was touching on. There we go.
Yeah. Who did he give? Did he give the clue to Ollie?
Yeah, I think he
Yeah,
gave it to
he did
Ollie.
give the clue to Ollie.
Yeah.
Ev, can
I
you
didn't
explain the
know
mad
anything
dash for
about
the
it.
idol? Or very like quiet, slow dash for the idol?
Yeah. I mean, I talked to her about Luna, and she had school the next day, but I was going to stay up till really late at night to get the idol. And I think I heard afterwards that Dane was planning on doing literally the same thing the same night, which would
Yep.
have been very dramatic.
I believe
but
Ollie was as well, because production was freaking out that 3 people had the exact same plan.
That's wild. And then I fell asleep. I don't know what happened with the other 2. But when I woke up, it was still there. And I saw like some people were still online, so I was like, I missed it. I'll just do it tomorrow. And then they all went offline at like 6 a.m. my time, like 7 Eastern. So I was like, well, this worked out perfectly. And I just grabbed it then. And then I was worried someone would have like all notifications on. So if they checked, they'd see I'd posted an image and deleted it. So I posted a picture of my cats to hide it up. But then that just screwed me anyway. So yeah.
I was
So
so
you ended up
surprised when I
finding it,
realized.
yes?
Huh? What was that?
You ended up finding it, right, Ev?
Yes, I did.
And then Luna, what
Yeah.
was surprising?
I was surprised when people were saying that they could like find out when the picture was edited. Like I had no idea that was possible because I'm mostly on mobile. So when Dane started being like, "Oh, it was edited at 9 in the morning," I was like, "What?" Like I was like, "Where'd you get this?" So I think that, like Ev said, posting the cat picture was kind of more of a bad thing because it kind of pinned it more directly.
Yeah.
I'll
on
be
it.
honest, I didn't know you could check the time at which you edited images until Dane pointed that out. I didn't know that either.
Mhm.
Yeah, me too.
I didn't either.
Me
We
either.
all learned something. And
Mm-hmm.
this is the beginning of a long story on Xanahu, where Detective Dane tries to find out who has the idol by asking everybody and anybody. And it's very funny as a spectator because he got close so many times, but he didn't straight up say Ev has the idol. He just got so close each and every time, but he never straight out said it. He was so close. Poor guy. That brings us to episode 4. Episode 4 is an interesting challenge. It was a roulette challenge where people would be matched up 1 versus 1, and they were able to talk to each other about game, about life, about anything while they were doing the challenge. Concerning the people in this call, Jason was matched up with Zach. We have, where are you guys? Ev was matched up with Scythian, and Luna was matched up with Goose. How did this challenge go? What did you guys learn? Jason, can we start with you?
Yeah, sure. So I didn't actually, Zach and I didn't really talk like any like game stuff specifically. It was just kind of like a bit of social talk, very
Okay.
casual. But I think the main point was that the challenge was very funny because I beat him. I think I was one. I think Goose was the other one, but
You did beat him 1,000 to 0.
yeah, 1,000 to 0. And the story of how that all happened was really funny because I think the first round, I was like, I hate my tribe. I want to throw for them. And I said like, okay, I'm going to put it in there. And then I just did not put it in there. And he put like 200 coins in there or something. And then the next
Jason
round,
did straight up lie to Zach round after round after round after round and took
yeah,
all of his money and his sanity. It was fun to watch.
yeah, yeah, I was a straight up robber in that challenge. It was fun.
If I may,
I
Luna, you and Goose had the same result, but the other way around. You had 0 and Goose had 1,000. What happened here, Luna? Can you explain for me?
Yeah, basically I just didn't really have a strategy and it didn't work out. That challenge, it was
I
also
can see
interesting.
that.
What?
I just said I can see that. Yeah, I can see that it
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
work out. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. So Goose he asked me to throw the challenge because he felt like he wasn't in a good spot on his tribe. I think because like Jason said at that tribal, you didn't tell him that the vote was actually on Cest until like half an hour before the tribal. And so Goose was talking about how he felt like he wasn't in a good spot on the tribe and he was worried about being voted out. And so
Right.
he told me that he wanted me to throw the challenge and that if he did, then he would like I could pick which 2 people from John Hu I wanted him to get swapped over when the swap came around. And I turned him down on that for one reason because I just don't like throwing challenges. Like I like trying to, win and I like playing for the tribe at
Right.
first. And but also because I didn't really trust him yet. Like I think he thought we might have a little bit of a pregame because like I've hosted him in another org before, like nothing really big, but I didn't really trust him yet because we hadn't talked very much in the game aside
I
from
mean,
his
you
one
hadn't
night.
played together, yeah. Just you haven't actually
Yeah.
been players at the same time. I get that.
And so I was like, I'm not going to give him a bunch of information when he can just turn around and use it against me. Plus, like, this sounds kind of mean, but like, if he's in a bad spot, that's not really my problem. You know, like, I'm in a fine spot on my tribe, and I'm not going to possibly compromise that by leaking information to the other side. And I ended up losing the challenge horribly anyway, as you can see by the 0 to 1,000.
1,000 to 0,
But
yes.
yep, I was glad that I didn't give him any information. And it may have prevented us from forming a game relationship, but it worked out fine in the end.
Awesome. And then our last matchup was Ev versus Scythian, one that ironically later in the game ended up working together, but for now they're against each other. Ev, how did this one go?
This was pretty boring. I think it was literally on Scythian's birthday. He was very busy.
Yes, it
We
was.
just did it pretty quickly. We both got just a bunch of really lucky guesses, but he bid more on his guesses, so he ended up beating me by a solid amount.
They both played the game as intended. And just one person won, one person lost. Pretty simple.
Yep.
This time, Fei Long absolutely destroys Zanhu, mainly because of Goose and Jason goose egging their opponents. And Zanhu ends up kidnapping Ollie, which is very, very, very interesting in terms of idol development. Jason, can you lead us through this?
Yeah, so during the challenge, Poe and Ollie were matched up together for the roulette, and Ollie had been telling Poe what we had like kind of heard about one round earlier with Cess, about how he wanted to like help Poe get the idol and stuff, with the clue and everything.
Right.
So yeah, so he had told me about all that. And then obviously the move would be to kidnap him if we won. And it was pretty funny. I think we planned on like rigging a wheel at first, but I went to the chat and I was like, "Yo guys, I'll spin a wheel to do this." And Andy was like, "Oh yo, stream it." And I was like, "No, I gotta rig it." So I'm pretty sure what happened is we just kind of like ended up just like brute forcing, like saying like, "Okay, yeah, let's pick Ollie." Maybe my memory is wrong, but that's what I remember.
No, if I remember correctly, you was like anyone we want to kidnap, and Poe is like, I don't know, and you said maybe Ollie, and then Poe supported you, and no one really had a reason to say no.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so yeah, that's what happened. We just kind of got everyone to go with it, and then that's how we got the idol in the end.
Ollie ended up giving the clue to Poe. Poe, the Kung Fu Panda himself, ended up finding the idol, which means at this point both idols had been found. Ev was in possession of one, Poe was at the possession of the other. Ev, you were at Tribal Council with Luna. What happened here?
I mean, of the people who weren't in the Metaluviav, it was between Zach and Ollie had definitely been more active in general. I think this was our second tribal in a row that was just pretty much dictated by activity levels, unless you remember it differently, Luna.
No, I remember it being really easy. We were just like, Zach is the least active. Let's just take him out.
The first tribals definitely looked pretty easy from a spectator perspective, just big groups of active people saying, this person doesn't really talk. Okay, let's go with it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Awesome. That brings us to episode 5, our illustrious 12th place gang episode, where the next person voted out would be part of the best gang in the server, 12th place gang. And right before that, we actually had a swap. For those of you that don't know how China swap works, it's a little unbalanced. Basically, on the show, it was more balanced. Knowing about the twist, it's less balanced. Essentially, a tribe got to choose 2 people, and those people would be swapped. And going into the season, knowing the twist, you already know what you're going to do. You're going to choose 2 people that you feel comfortable voting out, because why not? And the swaps that ended up happening, let's see. Fei Long chose Ev and Luna, ironically enough. And Zanhu chose Scythian and Will. Something I noticed about these swaps, 3 of those 4 ended up in the final 4. Pretty interesting. Not at all how we expected it to go.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Pretty opposite in terms of everybody going into the season in their confessionals was like, oh, anyone who gets swamped is going to die. It ended up being a puzzle challenge. In this challenge, let's see, Zahn, who lost very badly, very, very badly. Fei Long absolutely destroyed them. And Will was kidnapped. So on the Fei Long tribe, we had Poe, Andy, Jason, Luna, Goose, and Ev. All three of you now. What was happening over at the new Fei Long?
We were getting along, we had
Getting Fei Long?
kidnapped. What, on Fei Long? Yeah, us three were getting along. Because we had swapped over Evan Luna because of Goose mentioning he wanted. I think it was his idea. He wanted to because he knew that it was Ev, Luna, and Dane, and he was like, we should get two of them because they're threats. And I just I think all three of us here are good social players, so I feel like we all just clicked pretty well when the swap happened.
Yeah.
So it
As soon
sounds
as
like
we
Goose was
swapped,
trying to set up easy targets, and instead you guys just bonded instead because you're all three good social players. So that wasn't very good
Yeah.
for Goose.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That was not
Like
good for Goose.
as soon as we swapped, I know Jason was one of the people that I like immediately clicked with out of the Fei Long people. Like Poe was also really nice and Goose was nice. I wasn't sure how I felt about Goose after the whole roulette challenge thing. And I was like, I don't know if he has it out for me now or what. But I knew that I immediately really liked Jason. And then Jason, I heard from Ev first that Jason was open to working with us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then eventually that extended to Poe as well, which led to that.
Jason, did you rig this wheel to kidnap Will?
I did rig
Yeah.
that well. Yeah,
I definitely called that.
I did rig that well.
So wait, why Will?
Well, I wanted to. I just wanted to like get one of the people that was swapped over, and I felt like I had more of a bond with Will than Scythe. And yeah, I just because like obviously the clues aren't important, at least for me, because Poe had found the idol already. So I just wanted to like just get to know what was happening with the tribal over there. And unfortunately, I ideally I wanted Scythe to go because like I said, I clicked more with Will, but Will like the first thing he said to me was like just about like him being screwed, and I was like, oh shit. So yeah, it was pretty sad to watch because it was kind of just like we had to like let him die slowly because he had been. I don't even would if Poe and I wanted to, would we have been like allowed to give him the idol to play? Will?
The way we ended up discussing it is because on the show, when the kidnappings happened and how it happened, you would have been able to, but it would have had to be public and in a certain channel.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
Because of the way the kidnapping work. Usually they join you on a reward or they join you somewhere. Like Todd gave James the clue when they were eating at lunch type of deal. So it would have had to be in front of other people. I don't think we would have done it in the one-on-one.
Gotcha. That makes sense. But yeah, I think the other notable thing that happened with Will being kidnapped was that I told him to vote Scythe in case Scythe and Will like wanted to vote together, so that way he could have stayed 3 to 2 to 1. But I think Scythe also ended up voting Will, so it was just a 3-3 anyway, and he went on the revote.
That's correct. Unfortunately, Will, our resident alpaca angel, ended up joining the 12th place game. 12th place game got another great rep with Will. Yeah. Fallen angel type of tribal council. It was very sad.
It was rough.
It was rough. That leads us to episode 6, also called Dane's Wet Dream, because of the challenge. The challenge was you had to name countries when May posted a picture of the countries. And the reason I say Dane's Wet Dream, Dane is a very smart individual about geography, history, all that kind of stuff, and he loved this challenge. But essentially, let's see, who won this? There's so many people saying last. Zahn Who won immunity here, and they ended up kidnapping Andy, which means all of Fei Long with the tribal council. Lead me through what was happening here.
Yeah, right off the bat, I hated the challenge because I knew it was way too easy for them to throw. Like I said in my confessional after the challenge was announced, I was like, they're gonna throw this. It's way too easy.
And
Which was
they
not the case.
did.
And they did.
Yes. And then Goose lied to me about it, and that was annoying.
Wait, how'd he lie to you?
He was like, first he was in my DMs. At first, I messaged him first, and I was like, I should have seen that coming. And he's like, seen what coming? And I'm like, you guys throwing the challenge. And he's like, oh yeah, we totally should have won that. And I'm like, you threw it. You threw the challenge. Just admit it. Like I know you threw the challenge. Like, yeah.
No. I didn't throw the challenge. That'd be crazy. So they threw the challenge. They must have been very comfortable. They could have gotten a 4-2 considering they felt comfortable enough to throw on an even number tribe. But seeing as how you two ended up making the finale, I don't think either of you went home here. So what happened?
Jason happened, as well as Poe.
I guess I
Yeah.
should speak about this.
This is a very big round. Yeah, Jason, can you
Yeah, I got you.
talk about it?
So, my whole thing with this season, I was not playing to win. I was playing to just make it entertaining to watch, right? And you know what's not entertaining? People getting fucking swap screwed by a stupid twist made by a Survivor production, right?
Yes.
So I wanted to just say like middle finger to the China format, middle finger to the Swiss. I don't want Everglades to go because they just got like completely effed by just being brought over. So the plan that I hatched up while I was taking a shower, to get the OG Phalanx to split 2-2 on Evan Luna in case of an idol, and then I would flip to vote for one of Andy or Goose alongside Evan Luna. So that way it went 3-2-1 instead of 2-2-2. But since Poe was like a diehard ally for me, I obviously didn't want to do it without him. So the idea was that he would actually he would vote with the Phalanx, but be in the know of everything that was happening. So that at merge, he could still get information from Goose and Scythe, since they would trust him, since he seemingly did not do anything wrong.
Right.
But yeah, so I just got this plan, got everyone, me, Poe, Ev, Luna, we set up an alliance chat. And yeah, that was the final 11 tribal pretty much. I was very nervous the whole time. And
so let me get this straight. Yeah. Initially, the plan was a 2-2-2 because why not? You have the majority 4-2. And Ev had the idol at this point, which I'm not sure if anybody knew.
I did not
know. Knew about that?
Nope, just me and Luna.
Interesting. Okay, wow, so you even kept the idol here. It's big. So a 2-2-2, and you're like, nah, I don't want that to happen. So you vote with Evan Luna, and you have Poe, who's in the know, vote incorrectly. So when merge comes, he's still able to get information from the side you just jumped from, right?
Yes.
Was there a reason you voted Andy in particular? Like why Andy?
Mostly because Poe, Goose, and I had a trio already, so I felt like Poe, and I think Poe just trusted Goose more than Andy. So it kind of just like felt right, and also Andy and I like personally hadn't talked as much recently, pretty much since the swap happened, because we talked a good bit on OG tribes, but not as much. So I was like, I was okay. I was content with like letting him go. It was gonna be hard, but that's basically why it was Andy over Goose, I think.
From my point of view, I kind of wanted it to be Goose, but like I wasn't in a position to push. Like mostly because of the roulette challenge and then getting swapped over, I wasn't sure if Goose like didn't like me, which I later or like wanted me out, which I later found out was kind of true. And then, but from my perspective, what we thought the reasoning for Andy was because, like I think I don't remember if it was Jason or Poe who said that he was closer with Scythian. I don't know if that ended up being true or not, or what you just told us to make us want to vote for Andy.
Yeah, that was also true. Yeah, because
Yeah.
on OG Phaelong there was me, Poe, me, Poe, Goose, and then me, Andy, and Will, and then to an extent Scythe as well.
Yeah. And then Andy was also, just from the impression that I had so far on the tribe, that he was the least active one, which probably shouldn't have been a voting criteria at the round that we knew was right before the merge, but that was what I was thinking at the time.
Gotcha. And you brought it perfectly. We ended up merging after Andy went home in 11th. And a 3-2-1 vote as our last pre-merge vote. A little bit of background. We do trust rankings at all major events at the beginning of the game, at the swap, and at merge. Our final three, which are in the call with me, dominated the trust rankings with Luna in first at a 3.3 and Ev and Jason tied for second at a 3.6. This was a very open merge with Luna being the highest at 3.3, which isn't bad at all, but it's not super high. It's not around the 1, it's not around the 2. What was happening here? Merge just started. Vish won the first challenge in a knockout style challenge. We had to compete in a series of mini challenges. So Vish was immune. 10 people left in the game. Ev, what are you thinking here?
I remember this was one where, like, the group of me, Luna, Jason, and Poe had just like made it through that last vote together, and we really wanted to stay strong here, to keep like moving forward as a group together. I think all four of us are pretty invested in it, potentially going long term. And I know there was a lot of talk about wanting to potentially take out an OG's on who, just because like we just had two Feilongs go in a row, and that would help to kind of even out the numbers and not like, because if another Feilong was booted, we felt it would just like increase the tribal divide even more and make the Feilongs want to take out one of us even more than that. So Ollie kind of just became the easy scapegoat because he wasn't in that original Mataluvia alliance. He was the only John who left who wasn't.
Gotcha. Pretty easy vote, if I believe. Yeah, it was unanimous, 9-1.
Yeah. We also couldn't really go, from what I thought, we couldn't really go for Goose or Scythian because Poe was still supposed to be loyal to them. Like, we could have done it if Poe still like intentionally voted incorrectly, but otherwise it would have been revealing to the alliance we had, and we kind of didn't want
Right.
that to happen yet.
Okay. That's very fair. You wanted to keep that little gig you had going under the radar. So, because every round you last, every round it gets more important, not one more vote. I get that.
Exactly.
And interestingly enough, this was the last quiet tribal council Simvivor China had.
Yes.
A little bit of foreshadowing here, but the episode title for that round was If All is Voted Out, All the Power Goes to This Guy. And Dane said that. Ironically enough, episode 8 rolls around. We had a little bit of a word challenge. Dane goes home unanimously. So it doesn't look like all the power went to Dane. Jason, where'd the power go?
It went to the alliance that us three had with Poe, pretty much, for that final 9 vote. Because, I personally, I don't think I can speak for the other two here, but I personally wanted at least 2 OG Zanhus to go out when marriage started. And Dane, I just really had not clicked with as much as I had with Viz, even though Viz and I kind of knew it. We played together before, so that was easier to get along with him. But I just, Dane just like, he was basically someone I just wanted to get out just before he became more of a thorn in my side later on. So his name like originally started from that alliance we had, as far as I'm aware. And Poe spread it to Goose and Scythe, and Ed and Luna spread it over to Matt and Viz. And that's 8-1.
Yep. And I originally wanted.
Oh yes, sorry, go Luna.
Sorry, I originally wanted Dane gone because I heard that he threw out my name, and so that was just like I didn't want him to stay. And also, I felt like there was a slim chance that Goose and Scythian could still be like persuaded to vote with us through Poe, like if Poe wanted to spread a name to them, versus keeping, like, in order for our alliance of 4 to become majority, eventually we were gonna have to take out we were going to have to break up the Jeanhu Mataluviev alliance. And so this felt like the time that we were able to start that and
Felt
then
like a good
get
time to
our
strike.
alliance into more power. Yeah.
Awesome. And the reason I mentioned this is the last quiet tribal council, this is the first of many. I don't know whether to call it fights or skirmishes or verbal altercations in tribe
That's
chat.
good.
This one between Jason and Dane. Ev, as an onlooker, what do you think when just two of your tribe mates, one of which you know is going home, and one of which is your ally, just start arguing? Like, what's happening?
8-1. 8-1. I'll never forget 8-1. It's ingrained in my mind for it's a core memory. I mean, it was definitely like a little concerning that one of like my close allies at that point was really going off in tribal because I didn't know Jason that well, but we were working together and like I trusted him, and that was kind of like out of the blue for me because he seemed very like normal in the last few tribals we've gone to. But I mean, ultimately, it wasn't really affecting me too much until Dane called out the lions at the end, which was its own whole thing.
Yeah.
But it was very entertaining. I'll give it that.
It was very entertaining, and a lot of the future tribals will also be entertaining, at least for spectators. I don't know about the players, but it was entertaining for us.
I
Is there
liked it.
anything else we want to say on the 8-1 tribal before we move on to our next one?
I guess just Dane being kind of condescending and stuff. Like even the fight, like game wise, the fight in the tribal kind of just like reinforced that. Like at first I was worried that people might catch on to what Dane was saying and possibly talk to him and switch something around on us. But then like eventually I was like, I don't think anybody wants to keep him in the game after this has happened.
I would
So
actually
it sort
like
of
to
just
go.
reinforced that.
Hmm.
I actually want to go back real quick to like Final 10, the first part of merge, because I think we
Yeah, of course.
forgot something that I was wondering about, which wasn't 10 where Poe went to Luna to ask about who had the idol?
Oh
Because
yes,
Ollie,
it
yeah,
was.
Oh
we should
It
yeah.
talk about that.
was. Yeah.
Thank you, Ev. Yeah, we want to go for it.
Basically, so Poe comes to me and he's like, Ollie just told me that he has the idol and he's going to play it on himself and vote for you. And so I was thinking in my head, I'm like, no, he's not. Like, I know where both the idols are. Poe had told us about his. So I was like, he's not going to play the idol. Like, I'm fine. But Poe didn't know that. And I didn't want him to, like, or maybe he did know that. I'm not sure. But he wasn't telling me that he knew that. And I didn't want him to possibly blow something up or just panic over nothing in general. And so at first I wanted to just tell him like Ollie doesn't have it. Like I know that he doesn't have it. But of course then Poe wanted to know who did. And
How
at
do you
first,
know? Right?
yeah, like I didn't want to say like I was kind of torn between wanting to give more information to our allies because I remember when we first made the Jason and Poe alliance with me and Ev as well. I asked Ev if he wanted to tell them about his idol,
Yeah.
especially after Poe told us about his. And Ev said that
Hmm.
he wanted to keep it a secret. But when
Yep.
Poe came to me and then eventually asked directly, like, is it Ev who has the idol? I was like, yes. Like, I'm not going to tell him a direct lie. Especially, I mentioned this in Final Tribal Council. In Survivor, generally, everything eventually like comes out as the truth. Like eventually Poe would find out that I had lied to him if I had said no, and then that would be a burned bridge for me. And
Right.
so I decided to just tell him the truth and be straight up about it. I told him not to tell anyone, but then apparently he went straight to Jason and told him.
Yeah.
Um yeah, but then eventually that blew up, but it also allowed me to maintain the relationship with Poe and Jason, even when it was broken off with Ev, which I think was really important for me later. But I guess we'll get to that more later.
We definitely will. Thank you, Ev, for bringing that back up. I totally forgot that is something that literally
Yeah.
influences the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much idle drama.
Yeah.
So much
Ridiculous.
idle drama. This is the first time that's not true. Sorry. We've had idle drama before, but this is the first time in Simvivor there's been multiple. It hasn't just been, oh, there's an idol out there. Now there's multiple, and it's not as clear cut who has it or not, which makes it more interesting.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes.
So we move on to the round of 8. This was the infamous knockout challenge, where based on who did the worst in each section, you'd get knocked out. Jason won this challenge,
Mhm.
and Goose ends up going home here. I've heard Goose's name from Luna's mouth. So Luna, can we start from you? What happened here?
Okay. Basically, at first, I figured that Goose would be an easy option that we could take out, and then, like, he was also a little bit of a threat, and I knew he wasn't a huge fan of me specifically, and so I wanted him to go out at this tribal or somewhere soon. And I knew that our alliance had half the game, and we had the power to do that, and we would still be able to use the Jean Hu alliance because Goose was a Fei Long, and so we could say, hey, let's boot a Fei Long now, and then Jean Hu will be the majority. But in reality, we would
Right.
have our other alliance be the majority, and they wouldn't know that. And so I thought that was the best plan. And so we talked to. At first, the alliance chat with Poe and Jason and Ev was quiet because like some people were like, "Oh, we'll deal with it tomorrow. Like we don't want to strategize right now." Which I was like, "Okay, some people are burnt out, especially after the Dane tribal had just happened." Um,
Right.
I don't know if something else was actually happening during that time or if they actually didn't strategize that night. But so then the next day we talked briefly about the vote and I talked about how Goose was the best option. And then eventually Matt and Viz come to us in the Jean Hu Alliance and they say, hey, Fei Long is planning to split the vote on you guys. And so I was like, huh, Poe and Jason haven't mentioned anything about that. I wonder what's going on. Like, is that actually happening? Are Matt and Viz lying somehow? Or are Poe and Jason making a split? Like, do we have a problem here? Like, are we splitting up? And then, so eventually I talked to Ev, I asked, I'm like, should we confront them about this? But then we decided that we should probably just like see how it plays out. If they split, we have Matt and Viz telling us they'll vote Goose with us. If they don't split, it's 6-2. Flip, not split. If they don't flip on us, then it's 6-2, and it worked out either way, and we'll just wait and see what happens.
Yeah, I
And
remember this was
then yeah,
definitely like Jason and Poe had quieted down a lot in their one-on-ones with me. So I thought something could be up, and then it would have been really random for Matt and Viz to like come out of the woodwork just to lie about that for no real reason. So it definitely seemed to me that they were telling the truth. So having them be the ones to suggest taking out Goose, who both Luna and I hadn't really had a great relationship with, was really convenient for us.
It sounds like a big opportunity. Jason, I've heard from both of them that you became quiet to them. Was there a specific reason?
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember this travel too well. Uh, if I could actually go back and like see like when it was, but not because it was because a bit of a problem for me was that I like because school like I could a lot of times I could only come on like if like for like the first like 2-3 hours before the travel actually happened. Um, so I was just like quiet in general a lot of the time. But I think there's when you're like, when you're flipping on someone that trusts you and you have some trust in them, like it's gonna be like really awkward, like still like talking to them when you're like doing stuff. But this tribal
Right.
was like super stressful because I mean I really didn't expect them to, Matt and Viz to not go with the plan of splitting on Ev and Luna. In hindsight, Poe and I definitely should have mentioned that Ev had an idol. I mean, I talked with Viz after. I don't know if he was just bullshitting me or not, but he said if he had known, he probably would have gone with the plan much more. And if I'd been more vocal about like not wanting, like making sure that I did not want to just like pagong the OGs on who's, because at that time I did want to flip. I did want just to vote Ev and then go back to working with Poe and Luna, and I wanted to Fei Long out next. That wasn't Poe. But yeah, I think it was definitely a pretty stressful vote, and I think this was probably like one of the biggest mistakes I made, just not like being vocal enough with Matt and Viz and making sure that they were on board with the plan. I was pretty careless.
This was a massive turning point in the game, and that shows just in the fact that it was a 4-3-1 with Vish, Matt, Ev, and Luna voting correctly and voting out Goose, Sith, Poe, and Jason voting for Ev, and Goose voting for Luna. Big, big, big part of this was that Poe and Jason were ready to cannibalize Ev and Luna in the alliance, and then Ev and Luna recognizing this and being able to be part of a majority vote with Vision Matt. It seemed like a lot of duos were at work. You have the duo of Poe Jason, Ev Luna, then Vish and Matt who were going to vote together. and then Scythian voting wherever he got the most information from, and then Goose voting to save himself. This was a big tribal that I think influenced the rest of the game dramatically because it really blew things open. If I recall correctly, this is when the knowledge of Ev's idol became public. Is that right?
Yes,
Yes.
immediately
And
after in camp
Jason-
chat.
And called me out for telling Poe about it. Yes.
Okay, so Goose goes home. What happens next, Ev?
Jason happens next. He calls me out in camp chat right away for having the idol. And I
seems to
believe
be a
I had
theme this season.
training for like all night for my job, so I was not able to be on for it. And then when I came back, it seemed like everyone had kind of just bought it, which they should because it was true. So I decided to just shut up about it and wait till Tribal and then make a big announcement about how I was going to play it then.
Yeah, and this was also when right after that blow up, Jason and I came together in our DMs and had kind of a heart to heart, I guess, like a close game talk. And I was talking about how, like, I'd reflected on this in my confessionals before, how being tied to Ev was getting me into trouble. Like the previous vote, I recognized that we had been split on because Ev had the idol. Like that wasn't my problem, but if it had been split 2-2, which Jason apparently, I think you said you flipped your vote because you wanted Ev to go like more urgently. And so I was like, if it had been split 2-2 and Ev had played the idol for some reason, I would be the casualty of that. And I didn't want that to be the case anymore. So I went to Jason and we were talking about how we were both kind of number two to our duos, I guess. Like Poe had the idol and then there was Jason, Ev had the idol, and then there was me. Like we were both in the same position, like a parallel spot in the game with our duos. And so we got more close with that. And then Jason was still close with Poe. And at that point, we made a trio alliance, which is basically the other alliance minus Ev. And that was when I made the flip on Ev and wanted him out of the game at that point, which clearly never happened. But I think, and like I said before, part of having told Poe about the idol, I think allowed that channel of trust to stay open, which allowed me to slip in with them instead of kind of being stuck next to Ev. Like I had another option and another place to go in the game.
Okay. So at this point, it seemed like Luna was ready to jump ship and join the Poe Jason ship. And I love Ev's episode title here. I am fully in my chaos era, which we saw at Tribal Council for sure. Let me introduce that.
Yep.
In this challenge, Luna wins immunity. And the vote is a 3-2-1. Another crazy vote. F, what's your chaos era?
I go into Tribal and publicly announce the idol. I show it. I give my whole speech, which is directly quoted. It was plagiarism, is what it was, quite frankly.
From who? From who?
From Malcolm in Sarar, Philippines.
Gotcha.
Yes. And I
Thanks
just
for the
announced that. Huh?
Thanks for the spoilers.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
But I just announced that I'm gonna play it and kind of ditch from there. Talk to people to just try to get some idea of where the vote's going. This is the episode where I finally got to connect with Scythe after we'd done the roulette challenge together so long ago. But my chaos era here was mostly just announcing the idol and then trying to make it so obvious that I would play it that people would think I wouldn't play it and vote me because I wanted that like satisfaction of canceling a few votes because I had told myself I was going to play it no matter what. Obviously that didn't happen. I only canceled one. But I think at one point I was even like, I've heard some rumors that people don't think I'm going to play this idol, but I promise you I will. And then Jason called me out on it in Tribal, and that led to another spat, which we had every 2 seconds this season. But yeah, that was my chaos era.
It was a very entertaining chaos era. A 3-2-1-1 with Ev negating Vicious vote. Sith votes for Jason. Ev and Matt vote for Poe, and Poe, Jason, and Luna vote for Matt. Why Matt here, Luna? Why Matt?
We chose Matt over Viz. From my point of view, it was because we needed to keep somebody in the game who would have a big chance at beating Ev at the immunity challenges going forward, because Ev was kind of the person that we all needed out, not just because he was a threat, but also because I personally needed him gone to have my game be separated from his after being stuck together for so long. I know Ollie even said at some
Like,
point that
wait,
he
Ev's the challenge beast? Because I just remember the first challenge where he took 9 minutes on the counting. I'm like, wait, this guy?
I
And
didn't
then
realize that either. I looked
he
back
proved
later and
me
I was like,
wrong
oh, that's
later.
so funny.
He definitely proved me wrong later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That leads us into episode 11 on another quote, because of course every post-merge vote has to be insanity.
It's Simvivor
This
time
was
after all.
exactly. This was my favorite challenge. It's a leafy classic. Build a Simvivor. Luna did not like this challenge.
I did not.
Vish won this challenge. Only one getting a perfect score. It's the first time we've only had one person get a perfect score. And the initial vote ties 3-3, with Poe, Jason, and Luna voting for Ev, and Vish, Ev, and Scythian voting for Poe, which forces a revote, which leads to another tribal blow-up.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Jason, you were a pretty main topic of conversation here, ironically enough, because you weren't even getting votes. What happened? Can you let us know?
Yeah, so I had, this tribal, I obviously wanted it to be just a 5-1 on Ev. It felt too easy, like leading up to it, so I did not expect it to go as a 5-1 on Ev, especially after I had like a short little conversation with Viz, and he was just super sus the whole time. Like, I'm pretty sure I asked, like, you better not be like, blindsiding me here, and he just responded with lamo, which is like the worst thing you can say in that situation. But so yeah, so I was not really too surprised when it turned out to be 3-3. I think going into the revote, at first I was just kind of just like maybe we can try to convince him to not go to Rocks, because I just did not want to go to Rocks. There was no way I was going to put my game into like a 33% chance, and basically 66, because Luna going home would have been terrible for me as well, I think. Or that's how I had it in my mind. I'm not totally sure if that's true or not, but
Gotcha.
I just did not want Rocks at all. So I ended up flipping on Poe, telling him that I was doing it out of respect. Didn't want it
So
to be a
was that the
blindside.
only reason you flipped on Poe? It seems like, well, not the only reason, rather. Was there anything else that happened between you and Poe between the point where you decided to flip and where Poe went home? Because something pretty important happened, I recall.
Was there?
Something about an idol?
Oh, well, no, that was after. That was after I told him I was flipping. I actually did not expect him to give me the idol at all. That came
I was so
totally.
surprised.
I don't know. That came totally out. I was fucking floored. I like you could go back and look at my confessional. I was losing it. There was like, and it was so bittersweet because I'm like voting out this guy that I've been super like loyal to, like played the game pretty much beside him the whole time, and now I'm just like flipping on him. But he gave me an idol, so that's something to be happy about. So it's just like a wave of emotions. It was crazy. I did not expect that at all.
Yeah, and I know I also flipped on Poe on the revote, not just because Jason did, although I was kind of strong-armed into it because of that, But also, I realized after that like at first I was just going to leave my vote the way it was and be like, okay, it's gonna 3-1, like he'll go, because I was at work and I wasn't sure I would have time to make another parchment. Then eventually I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make one of my own because in the case that Jason changes his mind, I still think that Poe should go. And eventually, like I thought that just because, like I was like, okay, so we wanted clearly Viz and Scythian are not going anywhere. Their votes are not changing, which means that Ev is not going home. Which means that if
Woo!
Ev is not going home, who
Forever,
is?
yay.
Like then I'm either flipping to take out Poe, or I'm taking a 33% chance of taking out Scythian, who at the time it was like Scythian of all people, like game
Yeah.
wise, that's
Yeah.
not worth a 66% chance of either me or one of my close allies, who was my new number one at the time after flipping on Ev, either me or my number one going out, and the 33% chance was taking out probably the least threatening person in the game. So I was like, pros and cons are not worth it. Just change my vote and take out Poe. And then it ended up working out really well when Poe gave the idol to Jason, which later saved my life. So
That's very true. And this is the Simvivor history, first time an idol's ever been given to someone else. Um, our reasoning behind, so like it's always been murky, at least in CBS Survivor, as to what happens during a revote. Advantages and idols can't be played, but it is never explicitly said they can't be transferred, and it's not playing. You can't play it at the tribal anyways. I was mainly surprised that Poe decided to transfer it. I think his reasoning of wanting to transfer it was to bargain with Jason, like saying, "Look, I'll give it to you if you don't vote for me." What was most surprising is that even though Jason was voting for Poe, and an hour later, Poe still gave it to him. That's what I was surprised about. I thought it was going to be a bargaining chip. Bargaining failed, so he wasn't going to give it. He ended up giving it to it,
my
which
guess
was
is that
super
Poe just didn't
interesting.
want it. I guess he just didn't want it to go to waste. Like I
Yeah.
feel like I would have done something similar. Like you just don't want it to be a useless idol. Like you want it to
Yeah.
make an impact, especially since Ev's was burned and didn't make any difference. Like I
Mhm.
think he just wanted to make sure it was used.
Because he had
It's
also said,
that.
I remember during the final tribal council, he had also said that he gave it to me partially because he thought I would do like the most interesting thing with it. And
That's
I think he
exactly
was
where I was
right.
going with
You
it. You
did.
did. You
Yeah.
did something very interesting.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Let's get to
Anytime.
this part. Episode 12. Um, Here we had loved ones, and loved ones is a fun point in every org. For the ones in the call, we had Steven. Ev, I believe he's your IRL best friend, right? Or like close
Yes.
friend.
Yep.
That was very cute. I watched them do the whole challenge. It was very adorable, and I couldn't stop smiling. They practiced for about an hour and a half and then did it and killed it.
Yeah.
Jason had his friend Mouse, and Luna had her friend, is it Marie or Mary?
Marie.
Marie. The challenge based era has descended upon Ev, and Ev absolutely murders this challenge
Yeah.
by 10 points with a score of 26, with second place being at 16, which means Ev, after just having the vote split on him, is now safe. Meaning
Yeah.
this looks very, very bad for Luna.
It
It
does.
does.
Ev, can you tell me what was it like? I know you felt in the moment that you really needed to win immunity here, and you won it. What does all that mean to you?
Yeah. I mean, I was pretty convinced that I needed this immunity because at the Revo of 6, they had like pretty much out in the open like formulated the endgame plan for the next few rounds after like it had come out that Poe was gonna go, which was if Ev loses immunity, he goes next. If he
That
doesn't,
doesn't
vote
sound good for
Luna.
Ev.
No, that sounded very bad for me. So I kind of viewed this as like the must win of all challenges for me. I was like, tribal could have happened at any point after, and I knew it would have been me. I think Viz would have definitely voted me there. Scythe may have kept me. I don't know. I had built a pretty strong relationship with him by that point, so maybe I had a shot to have a 2 to 3, but I was going no matter what, I think. And then I didn't even
Gotcha.
do as well in the challenges I could have. Steve and I were averaging like 4 to 5 out of 7 for each one. So 26 was not our peak, but it was still a lot better than anyone else. So
It was still a lot better than everybody else. Don't worry.
yeah.
Yeah.
That leads us to our duo of the hour in a vote of 2 to 3, with Jason correctly idling the 3 votes for Luna. Vish goes home. Jason, I have two big questions. One, why'd you idol Luna? Two, why'd you vote for Vish?
So why did I idol Luna? Well, my perspective during this moment, which ended up being wrong after the season, but this was in the moment, mind you. I thought that I was basically dead meat if I went to Final Four with Ev, me, Viz, and Scythe, and Ev won immunity, which was very likely. Um, I thought I was just gone in the water because of just like me being like so like over the top, like visible the whole season. I literally thought they were just going to vote me out. I don't know if that would have been the case. I think Viz might have gone, but that was my thought process in the moment.
I think it likely would have been Viz.
Yeah,
Scythe may have tried to go for you.
I
So
would
it could have
not.
been like a 2-2, but I probably would have voted with you to go for Viz.
Okay, all right. But yeah, this is in the moment. I also just wanted, as I said earlier, main goal was not to win. Main goal was to fuck shit up.
You definitely did that.
I definitely did. I had not correctly played an idol since my very first org, and I wanted to do it again because that's just super fun. And also what I said earlier factored in. So that is why I idled Luna. I was actually battling, like I was having like an internal battle up until like 3 hours before travel, whether or not I was going to actually do it. I really wasn't sure because it had felt risky because I've had like I figured I don't know like what if they think I'm bluffing, because that would kind of make sense given how I've been during the whole season. Like, will they just vote me? I don't know, but yeah. But for the second question, I wanted Viz over Scythe because one, I thought just like Scythe would just like easier to keep her like less of a threat than Viz.
Gotcha.
And also, I had talked to Scythe about check-ins because I figured that would be the final immunity. He said he'd be good at it. I did not have the same talk with Viz, but you know, um, that was just kind of my whole thought process, I guess.
Okay, and Luna, our belle of the ball, you were
Mhm.
saved at the end. What's going through your head here?
Yeah, basically, I felt very screwed. Like, as soon as Ev won immunity, I was like, well, this isn't looking good. Because I knew I was like seen as the second biggest threat, maybe even the biggest threat at that point. I'm not even sure. Um, and so pretty soon after the challenge results are revealed, Jason tells me that he might idol me. And so obviously I'm like, oh my gosh, like this is like there's hope. Like I'm not completely dead in the water here. I also told Viz like partially this was partially as a cover and partially as an actual plea. Like I told Viz um like sorry, I'm like blanking now. I told Viz that you should keep me in order for Ev to possibly not win the next immunity. Like cuz I would be a person who'd have a chance at beating him. Like which is kind of the same logic I had for keeping Ev the previous Viz the previous round. And but I guess Viz didn't really catch on to that. It was also partially just a cover because if I didn't scramble, it would have looked really suspicious, and then people might have put votes on Jason. I actually considered like telling Jason to just play it on himself because similarly to what Jason said, I felt that if I was in the final four without Jason, I was completely dead. Um, and so I was like, if they're actually putting votes on Jason, I should tell Jason to just put it on himself. But then eventually I was like, it's more likely that they're going to put votes on me than it is that they'll put them on Jason. And second of all, even if they do put them on Jason and I'm in Final Four without Jason, I still might be able to win the immunity and then get to the end that way. So I was like, it's not worth a bigger chance of getting myself voted out when he uses the idol on himself. So I let him just leave the decision up to himself.
Interesting. Is there anything else you want to talk about this round before moving into the final four?
I don't think so.
I'm
I
good.
don't think so. Yeah.
Nope.
Sweet. And what's every vote has been chaotic up until this point. So why not make it another one at Final Four?
The
Episode
last time
13.
possible.
The last time possible, exactly. Episode 13. Challenge Beast Ev in his era wins immunity,
Yep.
meaning the only three people viable to go home are Jason, Luna, and Scythian. Predictably, this vote is not unanimous because I don't think this cast is capable of that. And it ends up in a 2-2 with some fire making between Luna and Scythian. This seems pretty straightforward from Jason and Luna's side. Ev won immunity, vote the other guy. Ev, what had you and Scythian voting for Luna over Jason?
Well, first of all, we talked that whole episode about how we were going to vote together at that point, and I think it was pretty real. Even from what I'm hearing postseason, I think if I lost that challenge, I had a solid shot at getting Scythian to vote with me there to tie
I
it
think so too.
regardless. But the tie, we decided to go for Luna over Jason just because we thought she had the better chance to win, which amazing foresight. We're geniuses. She definitely
For
did.
real.
Absolute genius.
Yeah, she had a great story. She was super social. She had made good strategic decisions to put her in good spots almost every round. She won a challenge when she had to. We thought Jason had probably annoyed some of the jury with his tribal comments that he made. And I mean, he said
He did
himself he
make a lot
wasn't
of
playing to
tribal
win. He
comments.
was playing to have entertaining time, and he definitely did. And we hoped that Jason would go with us on that, but he stuck with his entertaining strategy and definitely did not.
Jason happened.
Jason happened seems to be a recurring theme of the season. After Jason happened, fire making happened. We tried to do something different. We didn't want to
Great
just make it.
fire-making.
Here's a 20-piece puzzle. Solve it first.
I would have been so bad at that, for the record. For some reason, I suck at jigsaws.
You
It's
probably
one of
would
those
have been
things where it's
Scythe.
like
He was like awful.
it's one of those things where it's like in real life, if you need to practice fire making, you practice fire making. But like in orgs, it's been so many different things, and we didn't want to make it something that's normal. We wanted to make it something that still doesn't take that long, but something that's genuinely this is a last ditch effort to stay in the game. Luna ends up winning fire making. You guys were both stuck on the last word, right? For about a few minutes.
Yeah, it felt so stupid. Usually the channel descriptions should be the first place that I look. Like even in idle searching in other orgs, whenever it's like hidden in the server, I always look channel descriptions is the first place I go to. And so I think I checked all the other channel descriptions and forgot the rules channel, or I like looked at it without clicking on the thing that revealed more, and the word was at the end of the text. And so I completely missed it. I found the other two words, and then I was stuck in the channel with the fire pictures. I was like, I've looked everywhere else. I checked all the host roles and everything. I was like, there must be a word somewhere in the fire somewhere, which there was not. And so eventually I was like, maybe I missed something in the channel descriptions. Let's go back and read them again. And then this time I clicked on the one in the rules channel and I was like, oh my gosh, it's been right there the entire time. And so then I went into the tribal channel and typed it really quick. I kept expecting Scythian to like get it. Like I was listening for the ping in my earbuds the entire time. I was like, oh my god, he's gonna get it. He's gonna get it. Like I'm like the host said this is gonna be under 5 minutes, and it's been almost 10. I'm like, what the heck?
Everybody testing it took 30 seconds to 5 minutes, and then you guys passed 5 minutes, and Jack's like, "Do we need to give him Flint?"
Yeah, it was I was like, are they gonna give us a hint? I was like, this is not like I can't find
My
it.
hint
And then
was gonna
when I
be
did find it,
check description.
when I did find
I
it, I
had
was
it
like, that
typed
should
out.
have been the easiest one.
I had it typed out. I was gonna send it on the next minute, and then you found it. I'm like, thank goodness.
I saw when I went into
Don't
the
have to
tribal
give them
chat, I
Flint.
saw you typing. At first, I was gonna check, like I felt like I needed to double check what the prefix was, and then I was like, you know what? There's no time. We're just gonna go with the question mark because I think that's what it was. I was like, we're just going with it. What if I had done the wrong prefix? If I'd done the wrong prefix and like Scythian had typed it after with the right one, would
That'd
he
be
have?
funny. Not like funny for you, just like in general, like the situation.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't actually know how close it was, but yeah.
Scythian also had he was looking for the third, so it was pretty close. That leads us to our final tribal council of Jason, Ev, and Luna. Going into it, the jury up until this point was weird in the sense that like a lot of them went into it with very strong opinions, and then they battled their strong opinions against each other. If that makes sense.
Are you allowed to tell us what kind of opinions they had? Because I know Ponderosa is closed.
We never found out.
Ponderosa is close, so I'll give the production insight. It started with Ollie being high on Jason's game, and then Dane was an
That
extra,
makes
right?
sense. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Dane was the opposite and was
naturally.
Sounds about right.
more an advocate of Ev and Luna. Goose was a massive advocate for Luna, like massive advocate.
Yay.
They respected Ev's game, but like they super respected Luna's game. Who was after that? That was
Matt.
Matt?
Matt.
Matt didn't like the tribal drama and the blow up, so he kept pretty quiet. He'd send a message every tribal saying, "Not this again." And if you look at his confessionals, he'll send a cute little gift saying, "Me trying to hide from the tribal war." Uh, Vish,
You forgot
when he
Poe.
was in the game, was leaning. Oh, Poe, yeah, Poe was leaning Jason. Thank you. I
Obviously.
thought that was yeah. Poe was leaning Jason. There
I
we
went
go.
in thinking
Yeah.
Poe was a lock for Jason. I was like, I'm not getting Poe's
That
vote.
was the only vote I thought was a lot, 100%
Yeah.
going into Final Tribal.
I don't think Poe was 100% locked. I think he was 60% on Jason. I don't think it was anything stronger than that. I think he
Yeah. I think
wanted
by the
Jason to
end, he
win.
had said he wasn't sure he was between two people, which I think pretty obviously it was between Jason and Luna.
I believe so. Viz, at this point, could sort of see the merits of everyone's game, but Goose was a pretty dominant juror. So anytime a juror came in, Goose would talk to him about Luna. And then Sith just did not want to vote for Jason. And that was
Damn,
it.
really?
I have a question about that. What was it with
Big question mark.
Sive and Jason? Apparently there was a thing, Jason and Scythian, you guys like never got along.
I
Was there
mean,
a fight there, or did you just not click very well?
we were like chilling like on OG, but then when I like flipped on Andy, I guess he didn't like that because I'd
I
heard
was wondering
from
if you guys had some kind of fight. I was like, what
we
happened
actually.
there?
I mean, we kind
Scythian
of
and
did.
Andy were close for some context as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I figured, but like, cause what I'd heard through Poe was that Scythe like thought I was like genuinely like a scumbag, so I wasn't afraid to just like tell like Scythe how I really felt, cause at Final Nine there was a thing in the Feilong OG Feilong chat, when Poe and I were like trying to get them to like, cause Poe had an alliance with Feilong minus me. And the other two were much more active in there, and Poe told me that. So we were like I was like trying to get them to like be like a bit more on my side at least. So I was like, yo, do you guys like have like a chat that you're admitting to? I mean, look, do you guys have another chat that like you use more than the one with me? I was like, you guys like need to trust me. Like I made a stupid mistake. Kept like saying like how I was like so dumb at Final 11. Even though like I don't know, I never really regret that, but I would want to make them think I did. So and then like Scythe was freaking out when I like confronted them. He was freaking out like to Poe, and yeah, that was a whole thing. I'm sure you can go back and read that if the channel's still up. But yeah,
The channels are still up. I don't know if you have access. I think you guys have access to them. I'm pretty sure. If not, let me know.
I think we do.
I have access to a ton of channels, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's one of them.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Final tribal hit. This was a very good final tribal. It didn't feel uneven at all, which is why the vote count surprised me personally.
It surprised me too.
Surprised me.
I thought there were some very good. I thought questioning was really good all around. Opening statements were good. For the first time in Simvivor history, we did a 2,000 character count. Make it
I
more
hated
like the
it.
show where it's you give an opening statement, not an opening dissertation on your life story.
I would just
Yeah,
like
like
to,
I get why
yeah.
I get why it makes more sense in terms of being similar to the show, but that was so frustrating. Like I wanted to write more, and it's like, no, you have a character limit. You can't write any more. Discord won't let you. And I was like, no.
I mean, my take on it is like opening statements kind of don't matter for shit because what jurors really want to know, they're probably just gonna ask in their questions.
That's
Yeah.
true.
So
Exactly that.
and you're free to say whatever the hell you want. Like during
Yeah.
you can make as many statements as you want. You just have to have like one opening statement. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I
And
think
usually
a
when
third
people
of
have detailed speeches, then there's not as much to do during the questioning. So I think it did make the questioning more interesting.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's important to be more like one-on-one with the jury, especially instead of just
Yeah.
talking to everyone in the broad team, because every juror has specific like like things that they want to vote for. So you gotta draw to all of those things.
Ev, you were gonna say something?
I was just gonna say, like, I completely agree with that. I think I put like over a third of my total characters into my little video thing I did at the start, just because I cared more about like them seeing me and me talking than about like what was actually going on, because the questions were what they care about the most.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect. And if I may, I'd like to break down FTC a little bit. I thought it was incredibly close. We'll do alphabetical. Ev, I love how
Yeah.
personal yours was. You made a video. You did a great job in your questions, really referring to people by name, which is something people forget to do. And just psychologically, when you mention people's names, like it brings them into the conversation, makes it personal to them. You did a really good job explaining your game and why it personally mattered to the jurors. I thought you did a great job with that.
Thank you.
What comes after E? L or J? Hold up.
Jay.
Jay.
J.
Okay.
Jason. Jason just emanated realness during his. It didn't, and that's something that's hard to do in a final tribal. Not that Evan Luna didn't. Just you knew what Jason was saying was from the heart, and it broke my heart when he didn't believe in himself, and I kept talking to him about that. But Jason, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah.
I understand it. I'm not saying it in a rude way. I'm just saying like I love all of you. So it hurts my heart when you don't believe in yourself
Thank you.
because you did play a great game. And Luna did a good job showing the jury what they wanted. Luna understood that she played a game. She played a good game, and she understood who to talk to and what to talk to them about. I think Luna did a good job targeting her answers really well. And I'm very surprised that it ended up being a 5-2-0. I thought it would have been like a 3-3-2 type of deal.
Yeah, I expected a
Great.
3-2-2 or a 4-3, 4-2-1 or something along those lines.
I expected like a 6-1-0, to be honest.
I thought we would all get votes.
By the end, I was expecting a 6-1-0.
Yeah.
I was hoping to get one, but I was expecting a 6-1-0. At the start, I thought it'd be super close.
I thought it would be like me getting like kind of the Jean Hu people, not to go back to OG tribe lines, but like Dane and Viz and maybe Scythian. I thought Jason would get Poe and possibly Goose. I thought Ev might get who else was there? Oh, I also thought Jason would get Ollie. And I thought Goose would be between me and Jason, and then I thought Ev might get Viz or Dane, or I'm now forgetting. I think that's all the people. There was not as many jurors as I keep thinking there was.
Only
Yeah,
7.
there were
Yeah.
only 7.
Mm-hmm.
And watching Ponderosa, I think the hardest part for Ev in Final Tribal was the existence of Goose as a juror. Goose loved Luna, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just hard when you have the support of the jury. I think the 3 most important jurors were Goose, Viz, and where is he? And Poe. And Goose was so like adamant about Luna, which is tough because Ev and Luna were together for so much of the game, and their games were defined by how they worked with and against each other.
Yeah.
I loved all 3 of your games, so yeah.
I noticed during the questioning that Goose, like whenever somebody answered Goose's questions, he would give them like a follow-up or a question on their answer. Like for Ev, sometimes there would be like why'd you do that, or why do you think this, like little follow-up questions. And then for me, he never really said anything. So I think I said in my confessional, I'm like, that either means that I'm doing good or that I'm irrelevant. I was like, that means that either he likes my answers or he doesn't care about my existence at all. So I'm glad to hear that it was that he liked my answers more, or just liked me more going in, I guess. But I had that concern that sometimes there were jurors who didn't give me a whole lot of follow-up answers, and I'm like, that could be either a very good thing or a very bad thing.
Yeah.
I think it's hard as a finalist. I think Evan Luna had the potential to split a lot of votes because of the games they played, and Jason was either going to get votes from the people who respected the over the top or didn't. I thought it was a great FTC. I thought all 3 of you did very well. And
Thank you.
that was our season.
That was our season.
Yeah, I think it was a great season. It's one of my favorites that I've played.
I have some traditional customary follow-up questions if you guys are ready, just like 1 or 2.
Yeah.
Go
I'm
for it.
ready.
Okay, so we'll start. All of you can answer. We'll start with Ev though, just because he's on top in the call. But what was your favorite moment from the season as a whole?
Favorite moment was I mean, it was like kind of a disaster for me, but the final seven was just really fun and getting to be open about my idol and being in my chaos era, as we talked about. I don't usually play like that. That was very different for me, and I just enjoyed it a lot, and I'll remember it. Also, finding an idol in general is the first org I've ever found an
That
idol.
was pretty
I
cool.
won't forget that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I could, when reading your confessionals through that and your submissions, I could just feel you were smiling, which just made me
I
smile. I could feel the
Yes,
smile.
I
I'm
was
like, oh, this
very
guy's having a
excited in
fun
my
time.
submissions.
This guy's having a fun time. I'm like, I'm having a fun time. He's having a fun time. This is great.
Yeah.
Jason, how about you? What was your favorite moment?
I'd say probably idling Luna at Final Five, just because like I kind of feel like I let Poe down as an ally, so it was nice to maybe just like I guess in a sense get some like oh I did like help someone out here, um if that makes sense maybe.
You had
I don't know.
redemption as being an ally.
Yeah, pretty much because like I just completely like I thought the way I went about that was with Poe was pretty brutal. So and it was also just idle play. Pretty. I had thought about that one liner I said, but I think it was like paying it forward or whatever. That took me like so long to come up with, but I thought it was good.
I thought so too. Luna,
Thank
that
you.
leaves you. What was your favorite moment?
Um, I think my favorite moment was probably winning the fire making challenge because like for the past I think since like final 7 I was kind of in trouble. At 7 I won immunity and I would have been in trouble because Ed was clearly going to idle and it wasn't totally clear like I was the next threat after that. So I was really happy that I won immunity there and then at final 6 um I didn't get votes but like I know that final 6 I wasn't in that much trouble. But then final 5 Ev won immunity and final 4 Ev won immunity and I was the second biggest threat both those times. So then this just sorry, I can't talk. The satisfaction of finally like being at the end. Like I won the fire making. We're here. Like it's all done despite everything that people tried to do to get me out. Like I went against it and like it's done. Like we're here now.
You took control of your destiny and won. That's pretty impressive.
Yes.
Oh
Last
yeah.
question, and this is customary to everybody who's been on this. If you could give advice to somebody who will play in Simvivor one day, whether it's a newbie or a returnee, what advice would you give them and why? Jason, can we start with you?
Of course. My advice: take a page out of my book. Don't be so stressed about winning. Just focus on having fun. Whatever way you play orcs that's fun for you, just do that. If it's whether it's making friends, if it's just like strategizing and thinking about votes to 24/7, just play how you want to play, and no matter what anyone else thinks of your game, you should just be proud if you did what you set out to do. That would be my advice.
Jason, I think that's a great answer. And I personally agree. If you're, these are for fun, right? You should be having fun. As long as you're not actively hurting somebody, go for it, man. You do you. And
Yeah,
you didn't win. I loved how you played. And if you loved how you played, that's what matters to me.
thank you. I love how I played.
Luna, what advice would you give Simvivor hopefuls? You just won.
Um,
What I'm sure you have some advice you can give.
yeah, I would say just don't limit your thinking. Like don't think that you're stuck in a box. Like there's some things that you can and can't do. Just like keep thinking about every possibility. Know that anything, even if you think it's not possible, there's so many things that can happen. Even if you think you're dead in the water, anything, a twist could come out. You could get a new ally. Never stop like talking to people and keeping your options open because literally anything can happen and you never know what will come next.
I like it. Ev, close this out. What are you going to tell what would you tell someone who would play in the future?
It's kind of similar to Jason's, but in a slightly different take. It's just to take care of yourself. Orgs are a lot. They're stressful. it's easy to get so invested in it that it becomes like all you can think about and all you want to do. But take some time off, take care of yourself mentally and physically. It's not the biggest deal in the world, and no matter how you do, you should just really be proud of what you did and take care of yourself and make sure you're doing well.
You guys are so wholesome, man. I'm smiling like a dope here. Okay. Um, thank you guys. It's been our first episode back in a while of season in review. Can you guys say goodbye to everyone for me?
See ya. Thank you for
Bye.
listening.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thanks
Leafy,
for
for
joining
hosting
us.
us.